Reform Radio. This is the Jäger Reform stage at We Out Here Fest 2020. We have got so many exciting acts to share with you today and tomorrow, which you can watch streaming on mixcloud.com, or you can head over to the We Out Here website. Artists today that we've got coming up: Molly Hayes, KSR, Eva B, Children of Youth. There's just a few that you can catch here throughout the day. It's a virtual festival. One of the best things about virtual festivals is it's free. You don't have to pay no money, no cost. You don't have to do none of that. But what we are asking for is your donations, because today and tomorrow, this whole festival is about celebrating Black culture and Black music. And you can send donations via a link on the We Out Here website, and also on all of Reform Radio's socials, to donate what you might have spent on a ticket, what you might spend at the bar, what you might have spent on your petrol, to a complete array of charities that support Black Lives Matters, because they do. Black lives really do matter. And that's what we're going to talk about today before we get into the festivities. And I'm joined by two amazing women to do that with me. I am really excited. Hello to Poppy. Hi. And hello, Paulette.
Hi, Jenna.
How you doing? I've got great intros for you, so let me just do that dead professionally. Okay. The legendary DJ Paulette is a true icon of UK dance music. She has consistently stood up against racism and oppression in all of its form over the course of her esteemed career, not just as a DJ, but as a music journalist and label PR. She's held residencies at iconic institutions such as Hacienda, Heaven, and working regularly with LGBTQ plus organizations like He, She, They, Black and Blue Festival Montreal, and Homer Electric, and will be bopping around on your screen as part of the Jäger Reform stage this weekend. Welcome, DJ Paulette.
Oh, that made me want to shake all my feathers.
Please save that for the live stream.
Yeah. Thanks for the big one.
Thank you. Great. And also joining us, Pop Roberts. How you doing, my girl? Producer and vocalist, freelance with releases on Senko alongside Dub Physics, as well as Apollo RS, to name a few. Pops also steers the ship of the band Lovescene, which we absolutely love here at Reform Radio. You didn't know that already. And who performed last year at the very first We Out Here festival, and will be performing again this year, tomorrow, on the Jäger Reform stage. She's worked with so many amazing people, also a facilitator. We've had some amazing chats during lockdown, and it's just so great to have you here. Welcome, Pops.
Oh, righty, thank you. What a lovely intro.
Thank you. So
step it up now.
Come on now. So we wanted to talk with you ladies today because you span the past, present, and future of music, of the music industry. And obviously, as Black women, you have a perspective and experiences that we would like to talk about and share with people out there. Obviously, during lockdown, the world went crazy in more ways than one. But one of the things that did rear its ugly head, and really for most of us, it was always there, but was the brutal murder of George Floyd, which made a resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement. It's really ingrained in our psyche right now here in the UK. First of all, how is everyone in the aftermath of that? I know it's been quite a few months, but it's still very relevant. Let's start with you, Paulette.
Yeah, I think the journey never stops, does it? It's not like, where a lot of people will feel that, George Floyd, that was 2 months ago or something. It's not 2 months ago. I keep telling people, my experience, I was born in 1966. I've been Black since 1966. This isn't like a then thing or a one day thing. This is a 53 years and counting thing. And what the George Floyd situation did is it popped the lid for everybody, for the racists, for the people that didn't know what was going on or weren't aware that it was there. And, certainly for all of my family and myself, it just has left us really, really raw. And it's ongoing. You know, it's not like it happened then and we're okay and we can go about our day. It's made it's a constant reappraisal of where you are, how you live your life, who you know, who your friends are, because that whole thing has shifted as well. It's smoked out a lot of stuff, you know, and you know, in a good way and a bad way. In a very positive way, you found out who our allies are. In a very negative way, we've found out who are not necessarily enemies are, but who the people who are not willing to understand, who are not willing to listen, and who are not willing to learn. And that has sometimes been a surprise, because it's come from all corners where you wouldn't have expected these people not to do something, or these people not to help, or these people not to even register that something had happened. You know, they're like, there's been a lot of you know, it's an awareness of there being a lot of like flamingos sticking their heads in the sand, you know, or ostriches, not flamingos, you know, all mixed up. But, you know, big bird, long neck, stuck in the sand. That's what's been going on with a lot of people. And the frustration is trying to get those heads out of the sand and say, look at this. We are living this every day. So, you know, and we need your help. This is, you know, because we've been saying this from time. We've been saying lots of things from time. But if we say it, it falls on deaf ears. So we really do need allies. We need people to help us who aren't Black people or people of colour. We need you to know what's going on. We need you to be aware of what's going on. We need you to take it on. But we need you to join us side by side. We need you to link arms with us. We don't need you to push us in a corner and, you know, they can have their thing and, you know, it's a Black thing. You know, it's not a Black thing. It's an everybody thing. It's like, you know, gay issues. It's an everybody thing. It's basic human rights. That's what we're talking about.
I mean, I'd just like to say, that's what it is. Basic human rights. And we've talked a lot about this, Pops. You know, we shared a couple of conversations during lockdown and especially after that brutal murder of George Floyd. How has it been going for you, obviously, outside of those conversations we're having?
Careful now. Yeah, I mean, I really, a lot of what Paulette's just said, it rings true for all of us, you know. It has been... Yeah, it's been interesting because I think for me, it's been heartening in the fact that there were people who, I think a lot of us believed that a lot of white people we knew were looking the other way. But I think George Floyd highlighted that they weren't looking at it. They didn't see it. They didn't have the same algorithms. Because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my feed's been full of Black men and women being killed, detained, humiliated by police officers for the last decade. As long as I've had Facebook, I've been seeing that. And I didn't know other people weren't seeing it. I just thought they were looking away. And finding out that they weren't, that's beautiful. But on the flip side of it, there are people who are trying to, obviously, it's interesting to see people, as you say, the ostriches in sand, the discomfort obviously means more to them than tackling this. And fundamentally, you know, I think it's made me realize, and a lot of other people realize, that Black culture has never been more pervasive in society and in culture than it is now. Most bars are stocking ting. I haven't walked into a bar that wasn't playing 96% Black music of Black origin. Like, let's face it, when are you going to go out and not hear music of Black origin? Maybe a couple of indie nights, but that's it.
Even then, you'd be hard pushed. I mean, I found out a lot over lockdown in terms of, did you know the very first punk band, proto-punk band, was a group of Black guys from Minneapolis.
And I mean, it's the same.
Right.
It's the same with house music. House and techno. Now we're starting to see these articles resurfacing, which is like, these are the actual origins of those genres that have been largely, you know, a lot of histories that have been buried have come back, and a lot of conversations that get buried every day for all of us are coming back. And I felt the strength to be able to continue those conversations and not get frustrated, because the ears that wouldn't listen before are actually listening now, and that's amazing. But as you say, it's keeping it going. This isn't an ice bucket challenge. This is serious. This is a strong vein, and the stronger Black culture is, the more Beyonce's, the more OBEs given out to Wiley, she remembered terribly. You know, the more of that going on, the more we need to make sure that the tastemakers and what's happening at the top is reflected at the bottom, which is the communities. You know, there's no link, again, walking into these bars, hearing all this music, there's no link to the cultures around where, but I live in South Manchester. Sure, I don't know about exactly where you guys live, but I live near Moss Side, and I don't feel there's a connection between the black community of Moss Side and all these bars playing the music that comes out of Moss Side, like, or places just like it. So that for me is something that I'm just thinking a lot. I think we're thinking about a lot of things, but
that's where I would say, you know, one of the big things to come out of it, and I know I've certainly got this sense of the black community, and certainly in terms of the black creative community in Manchester, being galvanized. It's being drawn together to work together towards a common cause. Now, there hasn't really been that sense of everybody kind of really coming together all at once to shout with the same volume and the same voice, and that is very, very positive. So I think what we have to work on as well, you know, because it's not just an us and them thing. It's not just all about pointing our finger and saying what people haven't done, because always when you think about what people haven't done, you have to think about, what did I do? What have I done? And what am I doing? And what am I going to do? What can we as a community do? And how can we help ourselves? Because, you know, all of these things don't happen in isolation, and it's got to be a two-way thing. It has to be a two-way thing. We have to help ourselves as well. We have to help our sisters and our brothers, our businesses, our churches, our educational establishments, everything. It's not just about the food shop and the hairdressers. You know, it's like, you know, everything. You know, who are we helping? What community services are we doing? You know, you think about Nearmos, how many people can now get involved and start helping and putting the money in and helping that as an organization grow and flourish, instead of just kind of leaving it to, you know, to whoever has the biggest checkbook to go in and buy it out.
And turn it into flats or something.
And turn it into flats, you know. This is what we need to do. This is what we really need to look at. So we have to do something as well. So that sense of the coming together, you know, certainly I've heard so much. I've talked to you, Jenna. I've talked to you, Pops, all the way along. And it's been really, for me, very heartening that there is this galvanization. Is that a real word?
Great word. So what you're saying, Paulette, is that really this now is going to turn into us organising a massive party?
I hope so. Why not? You know, why not? Why not? Because, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, when we talk about systemic racism and is the idea that we can't do it. Other people have to do it for us. You know, we're not able, or we're not good enough, or we haven't got the talents or the skills or the skill set. But actually, I know, you know, between us, we all know people who can put this together. Between us, we can all, you know, there are business heads who can find sponsors. There are marketing people who know exactly how to work the internet, who are Black and people of colour. I'm sorry, I do know those people. You know, there are those people, and we are capable. And this is, on the flip side of it, is realising how capable we are. Is realising that Ava DuVernay can work with an entirely Black crew and an entirely Black cast. Shonda Rhimes, the same. Entirely Black crew, entirely Black cast, making award-winning TV and films. Think of Black Panther, entirely Black cast, entirely Black. It is possible. So we have to get there. Everything is possible. Beyonce, the same, entirely Black artist, entirely Black crew. And that's not shutting people out. It's saying that actually we can do this too. We need these jobs. And if you're not going to give us these jobs, we'll give ourselves these jobs.
Well, exactly.
Go on.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, Pops.
I was going to say, to anyone that would challenge that, though, as well as saying, oh, you're shutting people out. It's like, so what have you been doing all this time when there's been no, like, how can you call us on that if we're exclusively white crews everywhere else?
If it's, you know, you've both made points about include the community including itself, and for other people to come into the community and include it in what the city can do. But at the same time, you've also made the great point of we don't need that. We can just do it. We can exist outside of the frame and do it ourselves. And you made some really good points on that. But I think in terms of, you know, something we were talking about on the email, like how, you know, for those people that are going to sit there and be like, oh, well, you're just shutting us out, not being Black people, how can they actually implement that inclusion? We've talked a bit about it on email, Pops. You made some really good suggestions, especially in terms of here in Manchester, in our local scene. How can that support?
Well, I personally think that from what you said, the reason I put my hand up like an 11-year-old then, excuse me, is because I think that we do need both. Just as we need the allies we've spoken of, I think we can do it ourselves. We do need both. You know, that we know the music industry. We know there's institutions set in stone. They'll always survive. They'll always be there. And they love Black culture. I said this in the email. I know how many DJs, promoters, venues love Black culture. I just don't think they know or have been challenged into how to nurture it, cultivate it, and how to get as much out of it in the city as could be had. You know, I was talking to somebody about the jazz scene here. That there was a big kickoff about that online at one point because it's very not disorganized, but it's very fragmented. It's all over the place, and it's interesting. You know, I was talking to my housemate last night, and he was saying we were talking about the fact that the biggest stars in the UK are Black males making one genre now. It's just like the biggest stars are in a very, so even the genres are becoming quite specific, and it just seems it's all very disjointed is what I was going to say. And I think that how to improve that is that, well, now that we know these institutions exist, we know there are promoters and venues around, I think that the challenge is on them to start rethinking and start nurturing the culture and seeing it as something alive within itself, a world within itself, rather than just picking out names they've seen that are doing well or, you know, trending and so forth. I don't know why there's a jazz jam out in Chorlton, but none of those players I ever see in Matt and Fred. Sorry to say it. I feel like we need to gather, the city centre needs to start actually responding to what it has, the wealth of talent it has.
I think that's a really interesting point. If you look at, you know, like the London jazz scene, it is heavily dominated by Black players and Black artists that have been absolutely killing it around the world. Moses Boyd, like Nubia Garcia, you know, and this was a nurtured, community-led projects that have then like created these amazing musicians. It baffles me how we have the Royal Northern College of Music, one of the biggest and best colleges in the UK for music, but also it's basically 500 meters away from Trinity, which is it's a heavily Black populated school, and there's no correlation between that. If you look at the people that are in Royal Northern College of Music and then look at who walks past that building every day, there's a real disparity. And I think you make a really good point in that Manchester and probably most UK cities, bar London, because it's quite, you know, the record labels are there. So in terms of Black culture and stuff, they seem a little bit more on it when it comes to supporting and nurturing those scenes. And I think Manchester could do a lot better at that, especially when we're talking about scenes like the jazz scene, which predominantly is quite white here in Manchester. I think that's not a contender.
It's everywhere though. It is everywhere. It's not just Manchester, but yes.
I think moving forward. Well, actually, no. Let's go back a bit. Paulette, you've been a Black female DJ. Hacienda, Heaven, you've probably played with everybody that is you know, now like owns the clubs or owns the labels, etc. How is that for you? I mean, it pisses
how
me
does
off.
that happen, and what does that feel like? And
Yeah.
what does it feel like? What does it feel like when people say, "Oh, you know, they're doing such and such, and they've gone so high. Why has that not happened for you?" And I you know, I remember, you know, I'll draw into just a situation that will highlight this. I remember being at a music conference in Ibiza not so long ago. It's probably about 2011, 2012. And I was sitting in on a women in the music industry seminar. And the moderator for the panel, he used it as just as a situation. He said, "Why do you think that Sonic and DJ Paulette have not done so well, and yet Heidi and Annie Mac are scaling the heights?" I mean, I was probably the only black person in the room, first of all, so it was obvious. You know, I was just kind of like, spotlight on my head, you know, thanks mate, you've just killed my career. Nice. First of all, you've just killed my bookings. Second of all, that's a no-brainer. You've just brought two black women up against two white women. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. Those two women, as long as they've been working, have not done as well as those two women. It doesn't take a genius. It's not, sometimes you get the breaks, there's luck, there's management. I understand all of that. But at the bottom of that, underneath, you know, sailing underneath all of that, is that the white girl will get picked over the black girl. And that has been the battle, always the battle of my entire career, is keeping going despite all the blocks like that, you know, and keeping going over 30 years is an absolute miracle, because I've seen a lot of people come and go.
Well, it's not a miracle, you're a believer.
Yeah, it takes nails, man. You've got to be absolutely nails to be a black woman creative in any creative job. I mean, in any job, full stop. Because you've got so much going against you before you've even proved, you know, even if you can prove you can do that job 10 times better than anyone else, you've got so much going against you, you know.
The eyes on you are not seeing your accolades the way that they should. I have to say.
They don't want to. It's not, like, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter whether you win, you know, like I've won awards all over the place. It doesn't matter whether you win the awards.
It's interesting because actually I, before I met you, Paulette, because I've told you before I was really scared of you because you were such a legend. I remember seeing you. Do you remember Ace and Tate? Do you remember Ace and Tate when I was there? And I turned around, you were there, and I went, oh God, I froze and turned around and said to my friend, Paulette's right there. And I think I just did the weirdest smile ever. We've got to go. I've got to leave. I can't be here now. So,
and I'll tell you about that Ace and Tate thing. I was all over anxiety that day. I was just like, I was like, so, you know, in one way, so secure. I knew what music I wanted to play and everything. But inside, you know, sometimes when you go to these places where you don't know people.
And no one's drunk enough to make you feel welcome. So everyone's just like, hello, Paulette, good, yes, here's the headphones, here are the, yes.
And it's like, you know, I don't drink either, so I'm just feeling like on a totally other brain wavelength to everybody else, you know. And I was all over the place, so you should have come and said hi.
I should have, I was too scared.
Because that day when we were both working together at Wilson Social, and again, I get quite nervous, I really suffer from anxiety. And I walked in and I'd had a really bad drive into work, and Pops just looked at me and she went, oh, how are you? How's your week been? And my energy just came just like completely down. I just like, you know, some people you can be around that, you know, are supportive before you've opened your mouth. So
yeah. Because I'd practiced being cool. In front of you, hadn't I? A minute. be cool. It's like, yeah, hey, Paulette, hey, yeah. But the thing is, and it's interesting, when I had seen you about before meeting you, being intimidated by you, and I still do this, and to anyone watching this, right, I ask people what they know about you. And I'm doing it now for quite a lot of other Black artists, Black creators. And I ask people, and you know what people I'm asking, what they know. And the only person who told me of half of the stuff, because you are quite a mystery, that you've been doing in the record industry, you know, a record industry executive, was a Black man. It was Connie Con. He was like, yeah, she did all this. I was like, what? Why has no one told me that? And that for me is a big thing. And one thing I really wanted to say, and I didn't say in the email, is that I feel like I have been at workshops where I've seen people introduce themselves, and everyone who was Black played themselves down because they're used to it. And they're used to being played down. And I noticed who played things up and who played things down when they tell me what they know about Mysterious Paulette or Mysterious Other People. And that, for me, that's how I'm gauging, like, where this person I'm asking is at secretly, I have to say.
It's interesting you're saying about the playing things down, and it goes back to what I said in the beginning about not feeling that no matter how hard you work, that you're not good enough because you're not getting the breaks, you're not getting the gigs. So slowly but surely, you kind of stop talking about what you're capable of and what you do and what you've achieved, because it's falling on deaf ears. And when I lived in France, I was in France for nearly 10 years, and people always used to say, oh, she's so humble, you know, oh, she's so... and when I was in France, I was possibly doing the best I'd ever done. Yeah. So to be talked of in those terms, it's just like, you know, I didn't do the big up. And because I didn't do the big up, because you don't do the big up, you don't get talked about. And because you don't do the big up, you don't get written about. And it just slowly but surely, you write yourself out of the history, or other people write you out.
Or you just let other people do it. Same, Jenna.
Or you're waiting for, you're kind of waiting for other people to make that move for you, stand up for you. And the biggest turnaround, the tipping point for me was the moment when I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to do this myself. Because I knew that this story wasn't being written. I knew I wasn't finding the people that were going to listen or write it correctly or write it in a factually correct way. And I had to take that on myself, and I actually do not like doing it. It's not.
That's awful.
It's not, it's a Manchester thing as well, you know. We don't really do that. It's like considered gauche. It's considered a bit rude, you know. She's, you know, full of herself. That one, you know, that one down the road. She's always, you know. So it's not something. It's really not something we're encouraged to do. But in other places, you're expected to do it, and because we don't do it, you know, you kind of, it's easy to get written out. So you have to write your own history. You have to write your own story.
I think that's like so relevant, like especially to me. You know, I think we had a little bit of a conversation about this, right? Where it's like over lockdown, I literally just watched myself get written out of the history of drum and bass, along with a lot of other Black people, just got completely written out of the everywhere. And it was like I'm sat there and I'm kind of thinking, do you know what? Never won best vocalist. Yeah, even though like never would, not bothered about awards, but then also included as an afterthought on a T-shirt with other vocalists. You just kind of go, am I the idiot for not talking myself up? But exactly as you said, it's not a Manchester thing. But also I feel there's a part of that that's about like, you know, having a voice as a Black woman in music, and when you use it, people immediately want to shut it down, want to tailor it as aggression or tailor it as something else. And so does that play into that kind of not bigging oneself up and allowing other people to write you out of stories?
Yeah, because the people writing you up are setting the tone. That's why I say these venues and promoters and people like that, like, I'll be honest with you, I get asked to write my own bio far too many times. And if that's somebody's job, it's actually part of that journalist's job That's kind of extraordinary that I'm being asked to do the first paragraph.
Yeah, but I would say write the first paragraph, because then you know it's going to be right. Then you know it's going to be right.
But
then you know everything that you've done. Yeah, but if you're setting the tone, you set the tone. It's like, if we have to do the work, we have to do the work, because they're not, we know they're not going to do it. So you have to kind of assume that people aren't going to do it, and do it for yourself. And as uncomfortable as it makes you feel, this is us being pushed out of our comfort zone. Yeah. This is us being pushed out of the zone where it's like, okay, somebody else is going to do it. I'll wait. Well, you can wait all your life, because they're not going to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, you know, everyone's afraid of call-out culture, but actually this is the most constructive way of avoiding that. Because you, Jenna, like you say, you could just be like, oh, okay, so I'm last minute on a T-shirt, and you could go sick. Yeah. And a lot of people choose to do that, but you shouldn't have to. So it's about the conversation. I'm really excited to have this after this with you guys as well, about something proactive ways of doing this, where it isn't just call-out culture. I shouldn't have to call out a night that took the piss. Yeah, isn't as sorry as they should be. But at the same time, that is also on the audience. You know, if you see that kind of thing, we all need to be clear about this. Like,
I think it comes back to when we were talking about the allyship at the beginning of the conversation. The allyship is not just about, posting a black square or donating to the right charities. Don't forget there's a donation link in the comments that you can make donations to all day. Yay! But it's also like you say, being in a scene like music and understanding how racism plays a part within the scene you're in, and also when you see it, being able to call it out. And I think especially in music, because, you know, people don't not want to work, especially now that the industry is up in the air. So people have always been very, you know, I won't run my mouth about him because he owns this, and therefore I won't get my tune on that. I think, you know, for me, I mean, I've never been that person. It's probably why I don't work that much. But I think that more people need to be like that, especially as the industry changes. More people need to be like, that's not right. You're not a good person. That's why I'm calling it out.
Look how many venues.
Big time. I mean, you do have to be, part of it, like you said, you touched on something there where, as women and as Black women, where before we've even said anything, before we've even left the house, we have to think about how people are going to perceive us in that 1 second decision they make on the visual, first of all, and then on that 1 second decision they make on the audio, like, what tone of voice are you using? Yeah. What's your stance? What's your body? You know, we have to second guess before we've even opened our mouth. We have to second guess how people are going to read what is just our natural tone of voice. My family speak quite loud. We get really excited, and we're all really passionate people. And there's a volume level with my family. But that volume level, which is quite normal and natural to me, is considered aggression to somebody that doesn't like what I'm saying. You know,
I'm just passing out from what you said. I'm just going to faint. Yeah. Thank you for saying this.
So you know, if I am talking to somebody from Pioneer on the phone and I say, you know, you should really fix those faders because they break really easily, and I was considered like awkward and aggressive, and I'm just pointing out a design fault. But because this
is age old. This has been going on a while.
Tech, and I want it to be right. And I've seen something that if they just fix that tiny little thing, that product would be better. So I'm making this point, but I got shut down because I was being aggressive.
Oh, we're all aggressive.
All aggressive.
And I was reading this article about Serena Williams, like, you know, how she was always shot as having this, like, you know, like war cry faces every time. And it's like, there's an amazing article, I'll send it to you, but it's about the sapphire caricature of women, Black women being denied being able to just show passion or basic emotions. It's a colonizing tool that's still with us now to silence and discredit our opinions.
Big time. It's awful. It's terrible because it means actually And this is also why I think histories get lost. You don't want to talk. You don't want to make your voice heard. You don't want to have it because you're afraid that you're going to piss people off, or you're going to make people see you in a certain way that means that they think you're difficult or awkward, so they're not going to give you the gig anyway. Kind of always having to translate or erase your own blackness in order to function in the working world. Now, if people don't understand what systemic racism is, that's what it is.
Right there. Yeah, it's why you access that word, why you thought of the word aggressive.
Yeah, in order to function in and access that world that everybody works in. But 90% of the workforce don't even have to think about those things.
Yeah.
They don't even have to think about their tone of voice. They don't even have to think about how they wear their hair. They don't even have to think about, you know, whether they've kissed their teeth or anything like that, you know, or whether they're allowed to. You know, they don't have to think about, you know, when I step up in a meeting and I make a point, am I going to be considered awkward?
Yeah, I think
the same thing that someone else has. Sorry.
No, yeah, I think as well. It's you know, we're always welcome into a space where we fit the remit of what a Black woman should be. So she's a soul singer. She's really motherly. She's very kind. She's like friendly. But the minute we don't fit that remit, that's it. And I think, you know, to only be allowed to be one thing when everybody else is allowed to be everything is hella frustrating. And I'll speak for me creatively. It shut me down creatively. Like it's actually shut me down creatively, where you're just like, that I don't want to be that. Like this is me. And people are like, yeah, but we don't want that. We want that.
Yeah.
And like,
I had it. That's why I left Paris, because I didn't want to do the thing that people were making me do, you know, just be this very like, almost like a Barbie doll DJ thing that was there to fill the VIP. I'm always about music. I've always been about the music. That's all I'm interested in. It's like the blood in my veins, the music, like, and to be told that the music wasn't important and, oh, you know, you just, it's more on the look and on the performance and everything. I'm about that as well, but it was shutting off half of my personality. So there always has to be that point in any creative's life, but certainly for Black women, and you see it happening for Beyonce, you see it happening for Rihanna, you see it happening for all of them, actresses, Lupita Nyong'o, the same, is that there is a point in your creative life where you have to go, do you know what? This is me, like it or lump it. You know, just you know, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to talk about it. If you don't like it, I'm not making any apologies for it. Get off with you somewhere where it is more palatable for you, because
feeding back into what you said earlier as well, I think that is really where the power of our Black community needs to come in and support us. If other people refuse to understand us or are not understanding us on purpose and discrediting us, and because I, you know, in reviews, I know people who care about me, but they've described me as having a no shit attitude, takes no shit attitude.
That's a good thing. It's like, that's a good thing.
That's something to write home about. That's good.
It's good, but at the same time, I looked at how they talked about everybody else, and everyone else was like cuddly, and it was so nice to work with them. And then suddenly I'm like this takes no shit attitude, and it's like, bro, that's just because I suggested a few other things, because I produce as well. You know, it wasn't, and it really, and I know this person didn't mean it, but again, that is it. The residue of systemic racism is fallen on all of us, and it makes people say these things and use these phrases almost completely without realizing.
You know, it's like, and please don't use the phrase woke Black woman as an insult, because that's like, you know.
Well, we were born woke. It wasn't for us to be woke, was it? Like,
this isn't a new thing. This isn't.
It had to be woke to survive.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, over lockdown and obviously with the resurgence of a BLM being all over my feed and stuff, I had forgot that I was born that way. Do you know what I mean? Which was a really weird position. Like I kind of looked at where I'd got to and I was just like, wait, I knew all this. And then at some point I was just like, oh, just get your head down and keep quiet and pay the bills and da-da-da-da-da. And actually it's like, I've suffered because, you know, as I'm sure many other artists have suffered because you've just gone, oh, well, I'll just, you know, it's an easy life to pay me bills as opposed to maybe not being able to pay me bills and gobbing off. Do you know what I mean? It was a really weird experience. And I think that, you know, we talked a lot, Pops, about this because I was just like, I don't even have, like in my support network, I don't have someone that looks like me that does what I do, that I can talk to. Mm-hmm. And that is a really important thing to go back to, you know, like our communities supporting each other.
Yeah.
I felt like a bit of an idiot having not had those connections.
Yeah. Well, I mean, interestingly enough, you're saying that you haven't had someone who looks like you to connect with and who does the same job as you to connect with. I was emailing Greg Wilson over something the other day, and we were talking about my history and how I'd managed to make a career out of DJing. Because when I started DJing, first of all, there really weren't any female DJs. 91, 92, there really weren't any, and there certainly weren't any on the flyers or the posters or headlining or anything like that. But beyond that, there weren't any who were doing it as a full-time job. Everyone else that was doing it was like hobby DJing. They weren't looking at it in any big terms of, well, then I'll go to London, Leeds, Liverpool, Glasgow, and really pushing it out there. So he said to me, and it really kind of logged in my brain, there was no precedent for you to do what you do because all the other DJs were male. Yeah. Who else was I going to ask? In Manchester, definitely. Who else was I going to ask? Colin Curtis, Greg Wilson, you know, Mike Kraft, you know, all the other DJs that were doing great things and pushing it out there were male. So for me to then go to London and do whatever I did and then go to Paris and do whatever I did, I didn't have anyone. I didn't have anyone else's career or anyone else's like roadmap to follow. I was making my own roadmap. So, you know, it again, that explains why it's been a slower progress and a slower road for me to get to where I'm going than for other people, because I've had no help and no direction. You know, I've had to just really figure it all out for myself, you know, so.
And I find that extraordinary because that is my biggest thing is that since I haven't been DJing long, but since I've been in those spaces, I'm standing side by side with lots of white males, mainly, who they can tell any of us the entire history of Marble Whitney, or tell us all about, like, you know, they know all about the Supremes, the different lineups, and yet there's this complete disconnection between loving the culture and realizing that Paulette, Jenna, myself, all these other people, the music that's happening now and the creators and curators who are Black are part of the story you have been learning. You know, you're in a way, some people are using it for kudos. You know, they know loads about Black culture, but it's strange that they don't see that they're not upholding that culture now. It's cool to know all about Ready, Steady, Go and the early 80s and all this stuff, but know about what's happening now, because that really is crucial for all of us, for the DJs to stay alive and electric and new. You know, we should all be supporting each other and each other's cultures, not just taking individuals out of that culture isolated.
And I think I'm also saying that there is room for all of it, not saying that that person's cool and the way that that person does their job is cool, but, you know, I don't like that person because, you know, what she does is quite commercial, and I don't like that person because, you know, it's LGBT, it doesn't apply to us. It's like all of this applies. Or every single second of work that Jenna has done in her whole lifetime and that she's doing today right here in this panel is relevant. Same for you, Pops. Everything that you've done is relevant and has its little place in that history. Everything that I've done, 80, whatever it was when I started working in radio. I think it was 1983 or something ridiculous like that. When was I 18? 83 and 84, I started working in radio. Everything we have done is relevant and should be counted in and should register somewhere on that scale of having had something to do with the story. But try and find it. Try and find all the women.
Yeah, the Reno gets dug up, but this we're not.
Where's the story?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
I think it's definitely where's her story as opposed to where's his story.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So where are the writers that are going to write this story? That's also what we need to find is somebody who really understands what the issues are, which issues haven't been addressed, and write that book, or maybe we write it ourselves.
I think like that's one of the most encouraging things, isn't it? You know, the people on my feed now, people that I follow are young women who are standing on the shoulders of all that education, of all those people that have gone before and are really educated in that. And I've learned so much from women younger than me. Right. I totally believe that we have those people right here, right now in this generation who are writing us back in the story, writing themselves in the story. They're making the space for themselves. And it's quite, you know, at some point it can be like, oh, what have I been doing? But actually it doesn't matter as long as the space is there, and that's the encouraging thing. And I think it's been really exciting just to be like, wow, you've all been here. And like,
yeah, totally. I would just really like to give special mention to people like Anne's, to the Pussy Palace girls in London, Nadine Artois, to the Flesh Intention people, Siang in Leeds, the people that are involved with the normal not novelty thing for Red Bull, all of those girls, you know, black women, young, AG, Tash LC, all of these that are like the new guard who are really pushing it forward, and they know their politics, and they know like, you know, they know how to work their system and their sound and their lives to the absolute best optimum. And it's just so, you know, it has given me a massive rocket boost because I've seen how they're doing it and I've seen how they're talking, and it's just like, wow, right, yeah, that's how I want to do it.
Yeah,
we're all learning off each other. We're all really learning off each other. You know, Dijon, the same, you know, seeing how she is, you know, she has just gone like absolutely massive. There is no stopping her. Unstoppable. So great, because that also sets the tone for everybody else.
Yeah. And the tone set by We Out Here as well, I have to say, not just because we're streaming with them. Like, this is a really incredible lineup. Like, I keep looking at that lineup thinking, yeah, like, and that is encouraging. Like, for a festival, I mean, COVID aside, for new festivals to be appearing is incredible. When so many have folded, but also one that's just pretty uncompromising. Like, no one needs to even say it. Look at that lineup and look at last year's lineup. Like, we know what you're doing and we love it. And everyone who didn't quite take the plunge the first year were ready to get stuck in. And just the collective vibe there as well was incredible. And so that is a real bastion of hope for a lot of people. And a lot of the lineup, it wasn't about what I crudely call, am I allowed to? I can't swear, but I call it T's and teeth. You can imagine what the thing, it's less about that and it's about the music. We're not just booking the future of R&B that also happens to be really fit and can hold a tune. Sorry. You know, like this is real and it's a serious, like, it's not to be underestimated what a statement a festival like that is and what a tone it sets.
Big time, and very brave pushing it forward, because you know on the other side of it, there are the festivals that haven't got any women on the lineup, that haven't got anybody black on there. So, respect really to all of our allies who can see us. First of all, who can hear us. Second of all, and who are going to, who know that when they put us on the bill, that they're going to get a sick party.
And they uplift as well as have their black artists uplift them too, you know. It's less about tokenism.
It's a two-way.
I think the great thing about We Out Here Festival, I mean, the lineup is incredible, but just how much it spans, you know, it's not just grime music or it's not just hip hop artists. There's all genres.
Seriously.
You know, Black culture is totally represented and supported and amplified throughout the lineup. And I'm really looking forward to not only the rest of the festival, but also the Jäger Reform stage. You're both playing tomorrow, I do believe, ladies.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Am I following you, or no? I'm coming before you, Pops, aren't I?
It's like I just can't cope with that entire 2 hours, really. When I saw that we were playing between you and Scruff, I was like, back to the Ace and Tate days, like that. I've done a weird smile again. Buzzing, absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, I'm absolutely thinking. I don't know what we're going to play, but I'll think of something.
Yeah, she says.
I've got to bring it, though, haven't I? That's the thing. You've always
do.
Your triple A babe. Can't come with anything less, so you know.
That's all that you bring, though, is a triple A. I've never seen you do anything. Do you know? Even the first time I met you, Paulette. I don't know if you remember. You probably will, because I was Aggie.
Yes.
I know what you're going to say.
Was I came in? We got double booked.
Yeah, we got double booked for.
I was like,
Albert Schloss.
At the We Out Here.
It's not Aggie. I was just so like Pop says about in awe of. I was in awe of you, and I was so embarrassed, like shy and embarrassed, and it's just like, what am I going to do here? Like, you know, it's your party, and it's like, oh my God, what's happened? It was terrible. It's just like one of those awful situations.
And they're hilarious, because I turned up to DJ and Paulette, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? What the hell am I doing here? Got this? Like,
I would have stood up. Back to back. Made it even more awkward.
It's awful whenever that happens. Wherever that happens. I just hate that moment, and it happens on. It's happened for me more in Manchester than it's happened anywhere else in the world of being double booked. Yeah,
I swear the bookings guys must have like a trapdoor in their office. It must be built into every single one. So when it happens, they just disappear.
It's like Graham Norton's red chair. It's like just no going on.
So yeah.
Park.
But I remember you killing that Sunday. I was in such a foul mood, and I was like standing outside, and I think you played like a Prince track and then like a Rare Groove track from the 80s, and within like 2 tracks, I'd simmered down. Like I was like, okay, yeah, I'm really angry. I'm like really angry.
I mean, it's vibes though. It's vibes.
Yeah, it's vibes though. It's cool. I'll have a beer or something. Like,
you know what happened, which I think is just one of the most beautiful things in life, is that I was fairly new to Manchester when that happened. So I didn't really know anybody on the scene. And everyone that I kind of met through music, first of all, came through Schloss. And I think it was, that was the Saturday. So maybe it was the Sunday that you were singing then. And I was just like, oh my God, Oh my God. And I just followed you around every time you'd sing. I'd come and talk to you. Oh, you must have thought that I was Joe's stalker. And I'd like, just like, can I come and talk to you? Can I come and sit with you? And you'd be like eating your dinner. It's just like,
I was more like exactly like officers though. I knew who you were, so I was kind of like, oh my God, just act normal, act natural. Does that natural? You're just like, oh,
this is how I eat.
Yeah. I'm casually quiet like that. I think what had made me so in awe of you was like Pops mentioned a bit earlier, was the mystery of DJ Paulette, because I knew you were around when all the same people who are, get dragged out for anything to do with Manchester get dragged, I've seen those white men 1,000 times, but it's like I'd never seen you, and then it's like, oh my God, you're just here every day.
Because I lived away, so I left Manchester in 94, I think it was, when I finished my degree. And I went to live in London. I was in London for 10 years. So in the 10 years I was in London, I kind of was in the London scene and kind of popped in and popped out of Manchester. And then I moved to Paris. And once I moved to Paris, the movement from England to Europe was minimum, because I hit Paris and I hit the ground running, and I literally toured for nearly 10 years. Wow. Every weekend, 3 to 4 dates a week. I was just like blocked out. And I didn't do Ibiza in that time, like all of my international bookings, because I used to work in Switzerland and Italy and all of that. And that shrank, because I was just solely this French DJ who everybody thought was French that wasn't French. So by the time I got back to Manchester in 2015, there's been this whole period of time where people kind of know what I was doing and what I'm about, but not really seeing this body, not really popping into a gig here or a bar there, because I wasn't physically here to do it. And then once I came back, it was like, oh yeah, there she is. And the good thing about Manchester is it doesn't matter how long you go away. When you go back, people just go, oh, dope, she's back. Yeah.
You owe me £5.
You just really pick up where you left off. It's just like some weird kind of Doctor Who TARDIS blip. That's just like, oh, she's back. Oh, it's fine now.
I love that about Manchester, though. I love that about Manchester. It really doesn't matter at all how long you've been away or what you've been up to. People are still like, oh, it's a fiver, or oh, there you are.
Yeah, you will always be a mank. You can't get away from that.
Yeah.
It's just, if you are it doesn't matter how far you go. It doesn't matter how rich you marry. It doesn't matter how many MBEs you get, or whatever. When you go back to Manchester, you can talk to Paul Smith, you can talk to Peter Hook, you can talk to any of those guys. When you get back to Manchester, you will always be a mank. There's no two ways about it.
I love that. I want to go to the chat room. Is it a chat room? It's like a chat column. Yeah. Someone's put in a question, which I really love. So as a 21-year-old white male, they're nameless. They're just a 21-year-old white male. What can I do to help out? And I'm guessing, apart from supporting all the amazing musicians, DJs, buying their music, etc., what can we do, especially our generation, to improve the situation? So I'm guessing that's coming from all what we've been talking about, our experiences, being heard, etc., etc. And as a 21 white male, how can they help? Whoever wants to take that one at first.
I think if you're a 21-year-old white male at the moment, I'm sure you've been surrounded by really mixed conversations post the sort of BLM resurgence in July. And I think for me, it really, and I know a lot of younger people are so good at this, and I know the older generation, like, they're all so woke, you can't say anything anymore. But I actually think that that's a beautiful thing, and it's something that I'm really rooting for younger people, especially around 2021, is that just your vocabulary and and calling each other out gently on how you talk about Black artists or Black, you're going to be around a lot of young budding DJs who are probably white and male, who have a lot to say about how many female DJs and Black DJs are about. And I think that it could be really good to just sort of gently remind them that it's not a very healthy conversation criticizing this, in whatever way you can. I think that we can all make a big impact on our friendship groups. You mentioned at the beginning, Jenna, that, and actually you both mentioned it, about friendships, and it's taken a toll on some of them. And it might have revealed to you, a lot of people have been reflecting on school times, and some of the first people to contact me when it kicked off were my school friends, who were horrified and realized that there was this whole thing that I must have been dealing with that hadn't occurred to them, and that was beautiful. And I think just having that intention alone for writing that comment and asking that, you should be really, it's a thing to be very proud of, and it's something to feel. It's a lovely quality to have. So I think it's lovely to say.
Yeah, just be real, be brave enough to step up when you need to step up, back people up when you need to back them up, but also embrace it as well. It's not, it can't be all the negative, looking for the negative all the time. You've got to big up when congratulations need to be made, or, go and see a party with an all Black lineup. Take your mates. Go
to carnival. Go to carnival. Your local carnival.
The local one. Experience it. Love it. Read a Black music magazine. Just push it out there. Just don't limit your experience to the norm, because especially now there are so many websites and podcasts and everything where you can actually get involved in the culture directly, and search that out, do a little bit of an investigation, do a bit of digging, and share it with your mates, because we are all encouraged online with everything, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Spotify, whether it's, wherever you're getting your online information and music and shows and streams and all that. We're encouraged to share it. So share it. Share the love. That's what it's there for. Share the love. Share the love. Be an ally in that way. Share the love.
Know how important Black culture is in this country. I think if as a 21-year-old Black male, I'm thinking you're from the UK, so you're already, Black culture is already a part of your probably everyday life, not just inside the music culture, but also outside of that. Like you were saying, read a Black music mag, or read a Black author, or watch a Black film, or those kind of things. It sounds weird to say that, but the options the options that maybe
it's true,
and you don't think about it.
It's also about not seeing things as being attacking on you as well. I think a lot of people get defensive. It's like there are real problems, and we all know that. But you can't take it as it. I've had some really hard conversations with my own mother. We've never been able to have. My mum's English and my father's Dominican, and I think that to not take it as an attack, it isn't attacking you, it's attacking the system, and you didn't put the system in place.
Absolutely.
We all have our place in it, but that's another thing. And remind your friends as well, if they get upset, it's not an attack on you. It really isn't. No one's coming up like, why did you racist me my whole life? It's not. That's not it. But I think fundamentally, and I keep remembering that phrase as well, which is you can't enjoy the rhythm.
This woman.
You lot have been racist in me my whole life. It's really not that. There's a saying that I keep thinking of, and I really hope I remembered it right. You can't enjoy the rhythm and ignore the blues.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but I love it, and I think that's it. Have both, and it will be uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable for everybody, believe me. Believe all of us. But there's so many horrible things that have been happening in human history that were uncomfortable to tackle, and we did. And we've overcome so much. We are fully capable of this. That's,
And I think it's also, however you get your information as a 21-year-old white male, just be aware of what that information is. Be aware of what that agenda is. Be aware when even if you don't read a Black magazine, even if you don't read a Black paper, be aware when you read whatever paper you're reading, whether there's Black people in it, whether there's Black people in the adverts that you're flicking through, whether there's Black people in the campaigns, whether they're telling a Black story, or what those Black stories that are told in the paper are. Just be aware that there's something going on that either we're not being written about, we're being shut out, or we're only being written about in a certain way. And if you can be aware of that, then that's how it can be changed. You know, it's just one of these random things I noticed. I have a bookmark that I bought from Waterstones, which says, 50 books to read before you die. And I'd never noticed it before. But of those 50 books, only 2 of them are written by Black or people of color.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Only 2 of them. This was a Waterstones bookmark. I've had it in my book for years. This is how subliminal, this is how systemic it is. Because if you are telling me that there aren't at least 10 or 15 books that have been written by Black or people of color authors that should be read and absorbed before you die. I'm making that point. There should be at least 25 of those authors should have been.
Yeah, I'm wildly underread in Black authors. So I'm really behind.
So it's being aware when you see those things, and this is what my answer to the young man who's 21 is being aware when you look at these things, not to just accept that as the truth. Those 50 books, they're a nice 50 books, but I can give you 50 books written by Black people that should be read before you die. Yeah. So just be aware. All I'm asking of all of my friends is just be aware of everything that you see and read and hear, and how the equilibrium is sometimes not quite right.
It totally is. I want to end this with shouting out Yvonne Ellis, who's been with us in the chat room. She just wants to add, as well as being silenced, Black and otherwise women have been isolated. And I feel coming together as a group to support one another, which is what we were talking about, to focus on being together, to be seen and to be heard, and make a place for ourselves in this industry. I too have mostly been invisible regardless of my achievements. Yvonne, we love you. You smashed it.
You are unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And thank you so much for joining the conversation. Paulette and Poppy, 2 women I absolutely love. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And I can't wait for that power 2 hours tomorrow.
Yes, man. We're going to smash it. You know we're going to smash it. So there you go.
Thank you so much. Have a great virtual We Out Here festival.
Yeah, enjoy
guys.
Yeah, I hope that you've got some, rum on ice, or if you're just water on ice, which is equally as refreshing. Have a gorgeous weekend, ladies. And you know what I mean?
Big love, Jenna. You're the best.
Thank you. Mwah. Amazing. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. Matthew, Gemma, Rod, thank you so much. Of course, you can go over to mixcloud.com to watch the rest of the festival. And also, you can catch the rest of the festival on We Out Here Fest. I've got to do a weird changeover. When am I doing that? This is technology we're making.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.